Ladies and gentlemen, this is the very first episode of Sideline Savants. My name is Wayne Thomas. You can call me the commish while we're doing this thing. I got a special guest with me. His name is Jason. We call him New York. Jason, how's it going?
Fantastic, Wayne. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I can't complain. How'd you do this week in fantasy football?
Well, this week wasn't too bad. I'm in 4 leagues right now. Commissioner of one myself. I went 2 for 2, so I'm batting 500. A couple of hits, couple of misses, but we're not going to panic. Week 1.
Absolutely. Week 1. Yeah, we're good. Week 1, we're good. I'm in 6 leagues. I won 4, so I will take that. That is a rare win. Just kidding. I'm pretty great at fantasy football. But pretty awesome week 1. And with week 1, I wanted to talk about a few things going off the bat. The first thing I want to address, and Jason, I apologize. Normally, I'm going to give my guest the first word, but this got me fired up this morning. We heard news that Jordan Mason has known since Friday that he was going to be the starting running back for San Francisco 49ers.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, there was a lot of owners that were upset by that. But I'll tell you one owner that made a move that blew my mind, and it just goes to testament of how good of a fantasy football player he is. I'm going to show you a little image right here. So this was the evening before the game. Less than 20 minutes before the game started, I get a text message from my brother asking if I can please prove his trade. This man perfected and organized a trade right before the game started, and he got Jordan Mason.
That's historic. That you can't. I don't even know what to say. I saw that trade myself because I'm in this league with you too, and. Yep. I looked at that and I said, well, wait a minute. That was a lot. It was a heavy little trade. He got some players, but Jordan Mason with his performance last night, and more than likely he's going to be performing like that for some coming weeks here with some of the news from CMC and what he's dealing with. So that was an epic pickup and an epic night
absolutely.
in fantasy football.
So I'll tell you what, with the Jordan Mason situation, I mean, very rarely do you get a guy to fill in a starter and they succeed to the extent of Jordan Mason succeeded. I mean, this guy ran for 28 attempts, 147 yards. 28 attempts they ran this guy against the New York Jets defense. So Jack and everybody else that was able to grab Jordan Mason on a whim, well done. Well done.
Fantastic.
That is your big win of the week. Jason, what was your successes, or what do you think was a performance that you want to highlight starting to show off?
Well, my biggest win of the week comes with a guy who it breaks my heart that he's on a different team, but at the same time, I'm glad he is. Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, a new same face, new place over there in Philly. As a Giants fan, to see him in a Philly uniform kind of hurt my body a little bit. But his performance was amazing. You talk about your first game with a team away from your home. You're down in Brazil, so you're in a different time zone. You're in a different area. To put on the performance he did, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 in the air on that kind of sketchy field, and to walk away with no injuries. Was a fantastic performance. Give that man a cheesesteak, Philly. He's going to be special for you in the months to come. Again, great performance. Saquon, hats off to you, brother.
You know, I couldn't help but think while watching that game that there were some pass running backs watching it and thinking, oh, now you want to let the running back get touchdowns.
Yes. Yeah, we see that. And the tush push and some of the things that the Eagles would run. But when you have someone like Saquon Barkley, the talent and the destructive force that he is, and you want to keep Hurts healthy, you run the ball. And he definitely did, and he proved it. And I think that the Eagles, they're gonna get dividends off of him.
Yeah, they look pretty impressive. Any performances that you were caught off guard, that you were surprised of a bad performance, or something that you would say that that really just left an impact on you and shocked you regarding a performance?
Well, my biggest thing was I put a lot of stock in the rookies this year, and I think a lot of fantasy owners did. Specifically Marvin Harrison Jr. Only coming out with a point. Bo Nix, who was touted and just given the keys in Denver with an awesome preseason to go out and kind of lay an egg like he did, and then Rome, one of my favorite guys. That I had high hopes for, just kind of got a little banged up and then came out. So there was a bunch of rookies that I just really put a lot of stock in, and I'm sure a lot of fantasy owners did. But just kind of they fell flat and did not perform like we thought they were.
I'll tell you, there was one rookie that we saw perform very well, and his name was Xavier Worthy. And you just so happen to have him on your fantasy team, Jason. So I'm sure that felt pretty good.
Yes, it did. The second coming, he's going to be an awesome player. We'll talk about him here in a little bit.
And that's actually what I was getting to. I got a lot of questions after Worthy's performance, and watching Patrick Mahomes with a wide receiving core is probably the best wide receiving core he's had in a long time. Might be the best he's ever had. I know he had Tyreek Hill, but he's never really had a dynamic duo before. With Worthy's performance, would you say that Worthy is going to be the guy to look out for in Kansas City, or somebody like Rashee Rice? Does he look like a wide receiver one?
Well, everybody's going to be up on Rashee Rice, aka Instant Rice, because it's the guy, the sexy pick right now. We live in the moment so much, so often. But and I think he's going to be a great player. But you got to remember, you still have Travis Kelce on there. I think he had an off game. He's going to come back. He's going to get more shares. So he's going to take some of those things away from Rice. Rice is a good player, but Worthy, you just saw what he can do coming out of the backfield with a rushing touchdown. First time he touched the ball, 21-yard touchdown, untouched, just through that line. Fantastic speed kills. He is Cheetah 2.0. I think he's the next coming of Tyreek Hill. You put him with a Patrick Mahomes who can throw the ball literally from every angle on the field. So now you got a dynamic player who just doesn't play up and down the field. He does so many other things. He can catch, run. Andy Reid loves trick plays and loves doing weird stuff. So I can see Worthy really, really benefiting from Andy Reid's play calling. Rice is going to get his catches. But he's just the sexy pick from week one. And I think that's Instant Rice. Whereas Worthy, Cheetah 2.0, he is here to stay.
I love having you on, Jason, because I can always count on you to get good nicknames for people. Instant Rice, as you call it, did have 9 targets with 7 receptions, 103 yards. Xavier Worthy, only 3 receptions, 47 yards, and, of course, 2 touchdowns. Now, listen, I'm a Rashee Rice guy in this situation. I'd rather take the targets over the flash. When I think of Xavier Worthy, it's very similar to past years when I look at Gabe Davis with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He would have multiple touchdown games, big plays, but
big game Dave.
He was dependent on big plays, and I know the talent is there for Worthy, but when I'm talking who I want this year to help me win and who I think is going to be more reliable, I'm going Instant Rice.
Well, one of the biggest, and I'm not big on stats because I think stats are a little overrated sometimes. I think emotion and heart really fill out a fantasy league. Instant Rice had 14.71 yards per catch. That's solid. That's first downs every time. The Cheetah, 23.5 yards per catch.
Yeah.
So he only had a couple of catches, but they were big catches. You talk about boom plays, especially in fantasy football. When you hit certain marks, you're going to get some of the certain bonus points. So you talk about bonus points plus touchdowns. I'm going to take that all day long. You can catch 10 passes for whatever yards. If you don't catch touchdowns or you're not really getting those big plays down the field, you're not scoring, you're not getting those bonus points. So
Yeah.
give me Cheetah 2.0 all day long. You can have some rice.
There we go. There we go. All right. So, I was thinking a fantasy involves certain levels of patience sometimes. And that's what this next segment I was going to get to. You like rock and roll, Jason?
I do.
When I think of the word patience, I think of that great song by Guns N' Roses. All you need is just a little patience. And the guy I think we're going to need some patience from, and people are going ahead and running away with, is Drake London. He is my pick for the patience button. This guy has the best quarterback he's ever had throwing to him in a very long time. And Kirk Cousins just faced the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very solid defense. This is not the game to write Kirk Cousins or Drake London off. I see a lot of good things for Drake London in the future, especially this year, and I am still a Drake London believer.
I think Drake London's got a heck of a lot of talent. I am just not sold on Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a hero amongst quarterbacks because you talk about getting guaranteed money. He is the messiah of that. And I think every quarterback from now on, we talk about guaranteed money. I think there needs to be a Kirk Cousins clause in there where he gets a cut of that. But we'll see. I'm still not sold on Kirk Cousins. My patience person for myself, also a quarterback, is T-Law. Trevor Lawrence, he is he's not top tier yet, and we're all waiting for him to get over that hump. And he had a subpar performance game one. This is he's coming on his years, and it's just he's not getting any flash. I mean, he needs to be up there with Mahomes, with Lamar Jackson, with Josh Allen. He wants to be considered an elite quarterback. He did not do it week one, but I have some patience. Week one, we're going to pause a little bit. I think T-Law has the tools, and he's definitely got a dynamic receiver. And Robinson Jr. there, his rookie wide receiver, he's going to be a stud in this league. So T-Law, my patience guy, I can see him bouncing back next week and weeks after having some big games.
Yeah, I like T-Law a lot. And a lot of times these quarterbacks have kind of a slower start. We saw that with Joe Burrow this week. Even Josh Allen, first quarter, people were wondering, where's Josh? And then, of course, he woke up some faster than some quarterbacks did. While we're talking about players, let's go ahead and get some starts and sits, because that's what the people want when they watch fantasy football podcasts, and I'm ready to give the people what they want. So quarterback position, Jason, who you got? Who you got start?
I'm starting T-Law again. I'm a huge fan. I see him bouncing back from his week one performance. He's going against a Cleveland team that looks pretty atrocious, even though they have a great defense. But that offense is so bad, that defense is tired by the end of the first quarter. So I can see T-Law bouncing back against Cleveland and having a monster game and putting up some big numbers. So let's go T-Law.
There we go. And my must start for quarterback is actually Anthony Richardson. We see him come back after being injured last year. He had a flash start last year and then unfortunately got injured. He comes back again this year and just goes crazy. 3 touchdowns, 212 yards passing, 56 yards rushing. You can't get better than that. What a fantastic performance, and Anthony Richardson is gonna do that again week 2.
Very impressive from Richardson. Week one, coming off that injury to do what he did, fantastic.
Who are you sitting at quarterback?
Again, I was real high on him. I drafted him. I had high hopes for him. Bo Nix against Pittsburgh. I just think Watt is going to eat him alive again. Bo looked like a rookie on Sunday this past week, and then he's going to go against that Pittsburgh defense. No one wins ugly games like the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that defense really does disrupts people that, if you make mistakes, they'll make you pay for them. And I'm sitting Bo Nix. Unfortunately, he needs to show something before he can be a starter in fantasy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid play. I mean, look what the Steelers defense did to a veteran like Kirk Cousins. Bo Nix is not going to go out there and do much against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next position up, we got running back, man. Who you starting for running back?
Well, I'm going to shock you big time. Again, I love my New York Football Giants, but that defense suspect, especially against the run game. I'm pulling out Austin Eckler for the Washington Commanders. I think Austin Eckler, the way he kind of ended that game this past Sunday, I think they're going to see that on tape, that he still has legs. He still can catch the ball. I think that running game is going to be a two-headed monster in Washington once they really learn to focus on those guys. And I think Austin Eckler, because the Giants give up the most rushing touchdowns in the league. And I think both of those guys, Robinson Jr. and Eckler, are going to have monster games. And Austin Eckler, I'm starting him because I could see him catching passes out of the backfield. I can see him running up. And especially when the score gets a little lopsided, I could see him being utilized a lot more in the fourth quarter to kind of run some clock, and he's going to just eat up that Giants defense.
Well, I told you guys when I was going to bring Jason on this podcast that you were going to get some hot takes. And if that's not a hot take, I don't know what is.
Hot take. Book it.
New York is here with the tie. He's ready to throw them hot takes at us. All right. So my running back.
Yes, sir. That's how we do.
That's right. My running back, I'm going Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is going against the Colts. We obviously know about Jordan Love's injury. With Malik Willis under center, Josh Jacobs has a lot of work cut out for him. I think they're going to lean a lot on him. We're going to see some screen passes coming to Josh Jacobs' way. I think he's going to be the guy that Green Bay feeds during that game.
I could definitely see that. That's an awesome pick. Josh Jacobs, still a great running back in this league. A lot of leg left in him. So I think he's going to be utilized again without Jordan Love, who was lucky enough to not get on the IR, which is awesome because I also was high on Love this year too. So I'm trying to have some patience with Love. So I love me some Love. I was hoping for MVP season from him. I'm glad he didn't get hit on the IR. But you got a Malik Willis that is doesn't have a lot of playing time. So they are going to just rely heavily on that run game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, someone I think we need to sit without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my cap around right here so you see that Raven symbol. There is no way Zamir White is going to do anything at M&T Bank against the Ravens after the Ravens lose that game against the Chiefs. Listen, the bank is one of the hardest stadiums to play in, and I pity any running back that has to go against the Ravens after they lose. Zamir White, don't touch that guy. I'm telling you, do not touch Zamir White.
Yeah, and he proved this weekend that he is a great backup running back. I don't think he's really a starter. I don't see him having the power or the flash or the speed. He's a solid backup, but he's definitely not a starter. I think he's going to get worn out really, really quickly, especially going against some of those top-tier defenses. And I think Baltimore is going to manhandle him pretty damn quickly.
Absolutely. So that brings us to wide receiver, Jason. Who is your must start at wide receiver?
Must start wide receiver. I'm going to go with the now. Alec Pierce in Indy has some kind of magic with Anthony Richardson. Before Richardson got hurt, Alec Pierce had a little bit of a rapport with him. He showed it again on Sunday with some of those deep plays. So I am starting Pierce. Yes, I am going to be a slave of the now. So Alec Pierce, start him, book him. He is going to have another monster game. I think he is going to be Richardson's kind of safety valve. And anytime he wants to chuck it up there, Alec Pierce is going to be here because they got great timing together and some chemistry there. So I can see that being a hot connection here coming out of Indy.
After week one, it's hard to argue that he really showed a real chemistry with Richardson. The only thing I would like to add to that is, again, you want hot takes? New York's got you. Austin Eckler, Alec Pierce in the same conversation as a must start. Wild.
Yes,
I applaud you, sir. I applaud you.
Yeah.
my must start for wide receiver is going to be Chris Godwin. He showed this past week that he is Baker Mayfield's number one target. Chris Godwin he was number one in targets, number one in receiving yards, number one in receptions. They did go up against a pretty awful team in week one, but he should have similar results against Detroit. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Baker Mayfield has established himself as a comeback of the year candidate. Well, that might be stretching it because he did go to the playoffs last year. So probably not. But I'm still lost in the sauce on Baker because they basically said that man's career was over because he got injured after leading the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs for the first time in so many years. Baker was considered a joke, and that's a shame. And now Baker's having a last laugh, and Chris Godwin's going to help him continue that success.
Well, I know that there's some people in Cleveland right now that are I don't even know. I think they're speechless / crying because they're looking at the quarterback play they have now, and then they're watching Baker Mayfield do the things he does. You talk about heart at the quarterback position. Baker Mayfield has some tools. He can run. He can throw the football. But you talk about just heart playing football, beat up. If he gets hit, he gets up. Fantastic. And I think that wide receiver core is going to benefit from that. And I had Godwin as one of those guys that was going to slide back. That was one of my hot takes on the side here in my fantasy leagues, that you were going to see a lot of veteran wide receivers kind of take a step back with this new series of wide receivers coming in. And week one shot me in the foot because the rookie wide receivers, a bunch of them took that step back, and you saw Godwin, you saw Mike Evans. You talk about Hall of Fame career, just give him the gold jacket now because he's still a stud. So there's some special things going down in Tampa that you got to watch it because they look pretty darn good.
Yeah, I agree. Jason, who are you sitting at that position?
And it hurts to say this too because I'm a real big fan. Romeo Doubs for the Green Bay Packers. All the talent, size, but the Packers just don't utilize them how I think they should. It's hard when you have Reed. Again, you talk about someone like Worthy. Reed is kind of the same way, a guy that can come out of the back wheel, can kind of play a slot position, can go deep down the field. So Green Bay has a lot of mouths to feed. And Romeo Doubs, I think he gets one of those boom games, but he's just not consistent. And he's going against Indy. And I just don't see him having a huge game against Indy. I think he's going to have a few catches, but I'm not starting him. I can't get near him. That's my hot take right there.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame you on that pick. I would say do not start any Green Bay wide receivers this week until we find out just how good Malik Willis is. So that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on and see what happens. For me, this is true. Yeah, for me, it's George Pickens. George Pickens is going against Denver. I do not like that matchup whatsoever. I'm not convinced Justin Fields is a good quarterback still. And what we're going to see from last week, the Steelers, again, as you mentioned before, nobody wins uglier games than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they certainly didn't win that. They certainly didn't win that game on the offense. Last week, the Denver Broncos held DK Metcalf to 3 receptions and 29 yards. DK Metcalf is a heck of a lot more talented wide receiver than George Pickens is. And Patrick Surtain is someone that I do not want to mess with on the opposite side. He's going to be teamed up against George Pickens. I'm not touching Pickens. I'm leaving him on the bench.
I'm just not sold. Pickens came in again. Tons of talent, a lot of hype. The next big thing, he is his own worst enemy. George Pickens, I mean, all you got to do is kind of mess with him on the line, get in his head. He starts making stupid plays. He gets in, he makes some bad decisions on the field. He just is his own worst enemy. So I wouldn't touch Pickens either. I just don't see him being fantasy relevant, even moving forward. I think until he can kind of get his head on straight and really become a leader of that wide receiver core, I think he's just going to be relegated pretty soon here to the bench.
Yeah, I think Pickens might find success with Russell Wilson, but with Justin Fields, I just don't have a lot of confidence in him. That brings us to one of my favorite positions to call because it's just fun to do so, man. What is your sleeper pick? Any position you want. Who is the guy that no one thinks is going to do much that you think is going to have a hell of a game?
You got somebody banged up again in Walker in Seattle, so I need a little fine wine to go with my my cheese right now. So I'm going to go with Zach Charbonnet, a little red wine to go with that. So Charbonnet in Seattle, I think he's a great young running back. He's going to get some touches here. You have Geno Smith kind of struggling a little bit to find his mojo here this early in the season. Didn't have a really good game, especially connecting with wide receivers. But you talk about a dynamic runner. Charbonnet's my pick, my sleeper, especially with Walker being hurt. I'm starting him, running with him right now. Bogut.
All right. My sleeper, I think you'll be proud of me for this one, Jason, because he's from your team. Or you might say I'm an idiot because your team's pretty bad. But I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors going up against the Washington Redskins. The reason I'm picking this is because if there's another team that's as bad as the Giants, it's the Redskins. And somebody has to get that ball. Malik Neighbors was one of the very few bright spots at week 1 for Daniel Jones. I think he's going to continue to be the wide receiver 1 on that team. I think he's going to get plenty of catches to warrant a flex play.
You know what? Again, the New York Giants, I love them. Diehard fan. Malik Neighbors, I think he is a monster. Daniel Jones. I watched the last few days New Yorkers on talk radio, on podcasts, on the internet, just completely blast Daniel Jones on his quarterback play. And he does look absolutely terrible. If it wasn't for Watson in Cleveland and Knicks in Denver, I would say, he's the worst in the league, but he's up there. Unfortunately, Neighbors, you got to get him the ball. And he doesn't take handoffs. He doesn't do a lot of behind the line of scrimmage passes like Reed or Worthy does. So who's going to get him the ball? Because it's not going to be Daniel Jones. So not sold on that one.
Years ago, Jason, I collect sports memorabilia, and I happened to get an autographed Daniel Jones jersey. I gave that to you because I didn't know anybody else that would want it. And I'm curious, as I'm looking behind you, I don't see Daniel Jones jersey anywhere. You still have that, or have you burned that already?
I got it right here. I have no, we got it. See, I was waiting for Daniel to do something. It's still here.
Here we go.
It's in the bag still. There's Danny Dimes. I want to frame it, but you got to do something to earn a frame on this wall. These walls behind me have champions, have proven themselves. Daniel Jones has proven absolutely nothing in this league, unfortunately. I'm hoping one day this will be worth it. And I appreciated the gift. That was very awesome. But Daniel Jones, please. Call Tom Brady, see if he can give you some lessons, something. Do what you got to do, bud. You got to get better.
Well, I'm not sure if I said this in the beginning of the podcast, but this is the first time I've ever done a podcast. This is actually the first time Jason's ever done a podcast. So I apologize. I missed a position. And
yes, sir.
That position is tight end. Jason, who you got starting at tight end?
We did. Holy cat, we did miss tight end. All right. One of my favorite positions in the NFL, the tight end. You talk about, being a dynamic player. You talk about athleticism, blocking. Tight ends don't get enough credit. You have your top tier tight ends. And right now in fantasy, you got about 4 or 5 guys. But other than that, it kind of falls off a little bit. I'm starting Sam Laporta. Had a kind of off game this weekend. But that's not going to stick. He's going against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to be putting up points. Detroit is going to need to put up points also. And Sam Laporta needs to be utilized. And I see him having a huge game. Start Sam Laporta this weekend.
I don't think you can ever argue against starting Sam Laporta, especially with the way Jared Goff gets that ball down the field. He is a major weapon for the Detroit Lions. I agree with that play. My guy, I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me, and I think you might have some issue with it too. But I'm a Kyle Pitts guy, and I think this is Kyle Pitts' year. He was one of the few bright spots of the first game in week 1. He's going up against Philly, prime time. Again, something that a lot of people don't want to give Kirk Cousins much praise for. And I don't blame him. Kirk has not been that good on Monday Night Football. I think he's got a 2-10 record. However, this is in Atlanta. This is Kirk Cousins' first game in Atlanta. It's prime time. They had a disappointing show in week 1. I think he leans very heavily on Kyle Pitts, and I think he's going to be his main beneficiary during this game. And I'm trusting Kyle Pitts. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, we'll find out what happens. But I'm taking Kyle Pitts.
I think most fantasy owners have been fooled the past, 3 years now with Kyle Pitts. He scored a touchdown on a broken coverage. I am not sold on Kyle Pitts. He still hasn't done anything. That Atlanta offense, you would figure with him and London and Bijan Robinson that they would have looked a little bit better this weekend. Not sold on it. Not sold on Kyle Pitts. A lot of fantasy owners have drowned because they just kept putting Kyle Pitts in, and he kept on disappointing. So, hey, I'd like to see him blossom a little bit and maybe make something of himself, but I don't see it.
Jason, how do you feel about your must sit? Is that Kyle Pitts, or do you have another option for your must sit?
No, sit. And I was high on this guy at the beginning of the season. I had some hopes for him because he didn't have a good quarterback last year. Was Conklin in New York with the Jets? Aaron Rodgers, his safety valve in Green Bay was always the tight end position. And with him getting a little long in the tooth, I would have thought he would have leaned really, really heavily on the tight end position. And as you can see, the Jets are basically the Jets again, even with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers looked like an old Aaron Rodgers. And Conklin just did not do anything on the field on Monday night. So it was very disappointing. I was high on him, but I am not putting him in there till I see maybe a string of games where Aaron Rodgers is actually getting him the football.
Yeah, for me, my must sit, and again, it pains me to say this because I drafted this guy high in a lot of leagues, and I'm going to have to sit him this week, and I'm not happy about it. Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. He's going up against Miami on Thursday night. Thursday night trap, as you like to say many times as we talk. And
Thursday night trap. Don't fall for it.
I'm not falling for it this Thursday. Dalton Kincaid does not seem to be a weapon that Josh Allen is utilizing. Josh Allen likes to keep the ball for himself. There's other wide receivers that he's trusting. James Cook is another option there. And hell, at this point, I think Knox is going to get it more than Dalton Kincaid. So we're going to see what happens, but I'm not touching Dalton Kincaid until I see him come back into fantasy relevancy like he did last year.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen needs to stop playing Josh Allen football and rely heavily on the weapons he does have, because Dalton Kincaid is good. He's got Shakur. He's got Cook. He has some weapons there. I know losing Diggs was big, but Josh Allen likes to run the football. Josh Allen likes to throw the football to himself. He likes to vulture touchdowns down in the red zone. So if you have Josh Allen as a quarterback, that's great. But unfortunately, everybody that plays around him doesn't get a lot of love from Josh Allen.
Well, that's why we see Stephon Diggs over at the Texans now. Josh Allen does spread around a lot, and hey, Josh Allen wins games. So ultimately, that's what matters. We are wrapping up now. I just want to thank you everybody for coming by. And something I did not mention before, Jason, it's your birthday, isn't it?
It is. I'm 49 and looking fine. So thank you
49
for the shout out and looking fine. So
fine.
Yes, sir.
Jason,
yep.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody watching. Again, we mentioned that this is our first time doing this. I hope you guys had fun. If you did, give us a subscribe. Go ahead and go on the YouTube page, hit up Boom Broadcasting. We'll be airing this on our socials as well. And I want to do another announcement real fast. I'm going to show you a picture here. That man right there is my father. His name is Jack Thomas. As you can see, he is wearing an Ultimate Warrior shirt, and he is holding a championship belt. My father won our league a few years back, and one of my favorite things about fantasy football is spending time with my dad and talking football with my dad. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have played as long as I had. Dad, I love you. Happy birthday. I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I'm looking forward to kicking your butt once I play you again this year.
I love it. Yes, Jack. That's awesome, man.
All right. Everybody, I appreciate you. Enjoy your evening.
Boom Broadcasting. Hit it up. Love you.
Boom.
Boom.